Hello. I'm the professor. Do you want to come with me? In this video, we'll journey together, revealing the complete Blast from the Past Commander deck. But we can do so much more. That's because this deck is so much more than just a deck. With 8 legendary doctors, 3 in Simic, 5 in Azurius, each of which can partner with one of the 11 legendary companions, 7 in white, 4 in green, and 1 Bant legendary creature, this deck contains 42 possible commander combinations. Do the math. With 42 different commander combinations, if you had a weekly commander night, you could build a brand new, different deck to play every single week from January all the way through to mid-October. And all of that is within this tiny blue Precon box. Seem like a lot? Well, that's because this Commander Precon is bigger on the inside. Let's run through it. As with each other Doctor Who Precon, Blast from the Past comes with 10 original Plane Chase cards. If you do decide to get in a game of Plane Chase, the first Doctor and companion Susan Foreman are the commander combo to beat. Why? The first Doctor searches for the TARDIS as it enters the field. When the TARDIS attacks, your next spell has Cascade, which triggers the first Doctor, letting you put a +1/+1 counter on the TARDIS, and allows you to planeswalk. Combine this with Susan Foreman, whose effect reads, if you would planeswalk, instead look at the top 2 cards of your planner deck, put one on the bottom of your planner deck, and the other on top, then planeswalk. You'll be able to quickly sift through the planar deck to find the most advantageous planes, and power up the TARDIS to impressive levels. Since it's a vehicle, the TARDIS counts as a historic creature while it's crewed, so Tegan Jovanka can give it even more power and protection, letting it swing indiscriminately every turn. The second Doctor plays a more political game. Allowing every player to draw a card during your end step is already a good way to make friends, but by giving no maximum hand size to everyone and preventing opponents from attacking you, you'll make sure the attention is pointed elsewhere. Test these alliances and the table's threat assessment by playing the companion Leela, Sevateem Warrior. Whenever a player draws a card outside of the first one during their draw steps, Leela gets a +1/+1 counter. If all 3 opponents decide to take your free card offered to them by the second Doctor, that's a total of 3 +1/+1 counters per turn. And that's not even counting all the times your opponents want to draw additional cards. The third Doctor is built to deal damage with Trample and an effect that grants him +1/+1 for each non-creature token you control. He even makes a clue, food, or treasure token when he enters the battlefield, giving him a boost right off the bat. And what better companion to have than Romana 2, a Time Lord scientist that can tap to create a token copy of another token that entered the battlefield this turn, speeding up your token generation and quickly powering up the third Doctor. Now, the fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith are the face commanders of the deck, so of course their synergy is going to make sense. The fourth Doctor reads, you may look at the top card of your library at any time. Once each turn, you may play a historic land or cast a historic spell from the top of your library. When you do, create a food token. While Sarah Jane Smith investigates whenever you cast a historic spell, use that clue token to draw any non-historic spell stuck on top of your deck to keep triggering the fourth Doctor's ability, stacking up tokens as you do. David Tennant's father-in-law, the fifth Doctor, rewards patience, asking you to sit back, bide your time, and build your power. His effect puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature that didn't attack or enter the battlefield this turn, then untaps those creatures. Jamie McCrimmon might seem like the type of companion you'd want to attack with every turn, but keep in mind that the buff he gets when you cast a historic spell only lasts 1 turn. Hold Jamie back a few turns to let him naturally grow, and fill your hand with historic cards. When you're ready to cash in your cards for a big attack, Jamie will have a huge power and toughness of his own. While you're waiting, K9 Mark 1 protects your legendary creatures with Ward 1 while it's untapped. On the turn you do swing in, tap K9 Mark 1 to give Jamie unblockable. Then untap it in the end step with the fifth Doctor to keep the protection up. The 6th Doctor has one of the most powerful effects in the deck. I always knew Colin Baker was underappreciated. Once per turn, you may copy a historic spell, except the copy is not legendary. In a deck where over half the cards are historic, being able to double dip leads to a lot of fun interactions. I'd recommend pairing the 6th Doctor with Perry Brown, a companion who gives the first historic spell you cast each turn Convoke, letting you pay less and get more out of every historic spell. If that's still not enough value for you, then use Adric, Mathematical Genius, and copy the 6th Doctor's ability to get a third copy of any historic spell. Looking at sagas specifically, Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright can push the value even further. Ian gives each saga Replicate, with the Replicate cost being equal to the saga's mana cost. So not only do you get a bonus copy from the 6th Doctor, you also get as many replicated copies as you decide to pay for. Barbara, on the other hand, gives your sagas Read Ahead, which lets you skip to the best chapter of any saga. This ability can be ridiculous. Keep it in mind when you read the sagas in this deck, and while you're at it, take another look at some of the sagas in your collection. The 7th Doctor, an obvious personal favorite of mine, has a minigame built into his attack. Whenever he attacks, choose a card in your hand. Defending player guesses whether that card's mana value is greater than the number of artifacts you control. If they guessed wrong, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't cast a spell this way, investigate. A fun bit of bluffing, but by manipulating the number of artifacts you control and the cards in your hand, you can push the odds in your favor. That's where Ace, Fearless Rebel, and Nissa of Traken lend their hand. Whenever Ace attacks, you may sacrifice an artifact. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Ace. Then she fights up to one creature defending player controls. If you simply need Ace to fight something, resolve the 7th Doctor's trigger first to get a clue for Ace to sacrifice. More interestingly, Ace lets you thin out your artifacts to keep the guessing game from getting too easy. Nissa adds even more complexity to this already nuanced minigame, with the ability to not only sacrifice as many artifacts as you'd like, but also the ability to add more cards to your hand, giving you even more choices when the 7th Doctor's ability resolves. The 8th Doctor's ability to play a historic card from your graveyard once per turn works well with most of the other green companions already mentioned, especially Jamie McCrimmon. However, the companion he wants to be paired with the most is Joe Grant. Joe gives each historic card in your hand cycling. So if you have a historic card you don't need now, but will later, cycle it, then play with the 8th Doctor later. While this deck is ostensibly a Historic Matters deck, the Doctors and Companions are the true stars of the show. While you'll most likely start with the Doctor in the Command Zone, Twice Upon a Time, the 5 Doctors, and Time Lord Regeneration can get you to the Doctors waiting in the deck, letting you switch up your strategy. Every card in this deck is jam-packed with Doctor Who flavor, but historic cards being the foundation of this deck really pushes that flavor to the max. By definition, artifacts are things made and used by people, objects that carry the stories of their use and users, just like the Doctor's iconic sonic screwdriver. Do you remember things like Bessie, the Doctor's Roadster, Ace's baseball bat, or the 500-year diary from the Doctor's history? These artifacts aren't just a flavor win, but work great within the deck too. The deck also features 8 sagas, one for each of the 8 included Doctors, and each telling an iconic story of the Doctor's deeds. From an unearthly child to one of my favorite old Who episodes, The Caves of Androzani, and all the way to the great gift that was the episode The Night of the Doctor. These epic tales are sure to lead to some epic plays in your pod. And of course, what would a story be without its legends? The characters and settings that bring it all to life. This deck includes 2 brand new legendary lands, Trenzalore Clock Tower and Gallifrey Council Chamber. Alistair, the Brigadier, the one non-partner commander option for the deck, is one of 4 non-Doctor, non-companion legendary creatures included in the deck. Our last historic spell is Gallifrey Stands, an enchantment that helps us fill the board with Doctors to close out the game. It even includes an alternative win condition, though its requirement of 13 or more Doctors may be a little difficult to pull off with just this deck. There are also 3 non-legendary cards in the deck that are huge historic payoffs: Traverse Eternity, Banish to Another Universe, and Displaced Dinosaurs. All get better the more historic spells you cast. I mean, who wouldn't want their food food to become a 7/7 dinosaur. That's a pretty powerful card. Better make it cost 7. How's that for a historic Tolarian Community College reference? The average Commander Precon comes with around 10 brand new card designs, but Blast from the Past has an astronomical 50 brand new, never before seen or played Commander cards. But what about the other 50 cards? Why, they're made up of the 2 greatest words in the English language, reprints. You'll find 16 non-land reprints in the Blast from the Past deck. And while most of them are good Commander staples or flavorful inclusions, 2 of these reprints stick out as the best. Heroic Intervention. Oh my goodness. This is great because it's one of the stronger green protection spells, saving your permanents from both targeted removal and board wipes. And also, look at this, 3 visits. An auto-include ramp spell for any deck containing green. These are great cards that we are very happy to see in this product. The mana base in this deck includes all new Doctor Who flavored art, and while it does have the usual Precon package of tapped lands, filter lands, reveal lands, and the other usual suspects, it also has 6 notable land reprints in Glacial Fortress, Waterlogged Grove, Overgrown Farmland, Dreamroot Cascade, Deserted Beach, and Horizon Canopy. Nice! These reprints push the mana base above the usual Precon standard and are exactly what we want to see from a premium Commander product. Now remember, there are a total of 42 different possible Commander and Commander Companion combinations within this tiny blue Precon box. So, in my humble opinion, one of the best things you can do here is to take it apart and build up brand new decks using the cards within, which is exactly what I sat down to do with several different versions of myself, and you can watch that in just a few short hours from this video. At 1 p.m. Pacific, or precisely 4 hours after this deck reveal has gone live, I sit down with Gavin Verhey, Teferi Magic, and Carmen Klomparens to play with original Commander decks that we built using the cards not only from Blast from the Past, but from all 4 of the Doctor Who Commander Precons. We took all 4 decks apart and rebuilt them in new and exciting ways using brand new Commanders and Companion combinations and adding cards from throughout Magic's history. So be sure to check out that video if you'd like to see not what type of decks these are, but what kind of decks they can become. But what if you wanted to upgrade this Precon? What cards would you take out and what cards would you add back to it? Well, we have a few thoughts on that as well. With a deck as synergistic as this one, there's a million different upgrade paths you could follow. But our upgrades are going to turn our incidental food production into a sub-theme. Tireless Provisioner is a powerful way to ramp us with treasure early, or create food for our food payoffs. Killer Service makes food and turns our food into 4/4 rhinos. Academy Manufactor turns our food production into both ramp and card draw. And Mondrak, Glory Dominus, turns all this token production to 11, and is a solid 4/4, often indestructible body. From the universe beyond of Lord of the Rings, Peregrine Took and Samwise Gamgee both amp up our food production and reward us with card advantage for our efforts, while Rosie Cotton of South Lane converts our food production into power for our attacks, and Revive the Shire is a regrowth with an extra food stapled on. To make room for these upgrades, I'd cut Hero's Podium, Bessie the Doctor's Roadster, Ace's Baseball Bat, Hero's Blade, the Sea Devils, Return to Dust, Day of Destiny, and Crisis of Conscience. But that's just one idea, and again, there are so many different ways that you can upgrade this deck. You could double down on the Legendary Creatures theme, you could focus on sagas, or focus on artifacts, or maybe add in some legendary safe clone effects for an Oops All Doctors type deck. And each of these upgrade paths will have new card upgrades and cuts. For a player who likes to tinker with their lists, this deck can provide endless fun. And while this deck has 42 different possible combinations of Commander and Companions, what if you were to crack open all 4 Precons and build every possible combination of Commander and Companion between all 4 of them? Well, then you would have 480 different combinations, and that means you could play a different Commander Commander deck every single night for over 1 year and still not have seen all there is to see within these decks. Want just a glimpse of what you could do? Out of those 480 possible combinations, we chose 4 possible decks, built them, and are playing them on a brand new episode of Shuffle Up and Play that goes live in just 4 hours after this deck is revealed. You know, there are Commander decks out there where the mountains burn, the islands sleep, and the plains dream. Creatures summoned of smoke, and lands as beautiful as a song. Somewhere, someone's playing Infect, someone else is on Stacks, and someone still is running Merfolk. Come on, friends, we've got games to play.